Interval notation and set notation are shorthand ways to represent a span of numbers, or a solution to our problem. With interval notation, your basic format is a lower number for your answer set, followed by a comma, and your upper number. Think of them as your boundaries. They will be enclosed by either parentheses or brackets. It's important to note that it can be a combination of brackets and parentheses, such as those. We also want you to know that numbers such as infinity are not attainable. So when it comes to brackets and parentheses, you will always use soft parentheses with infinity. So if you ever wanted to include every set of numbers in your answer, you would use this notation right here. Let's try a different example. Let's say the number 5 is your lowest number you can use, but it's allowable, but any number bigger is also a part of your solution. So we'd say from 5 to infinity. Your interval notation would be marked by 5, comma, your highest number infinity, and your brackets or parentheses would be as such. A hard bracket on the 5 because 5 is a solution indicated by that filled circle. Infinity always has a soft bracket because that number is not attainable. If you had another example, say you wanted to go from 3 to 8. If 3 was not a good solution, but any other number higher than it up to 8, including 8 was an option, we would indicate it like that on a number line. So our interval notation would be 3, 8. With our lower number 3 not being an option, we'd put our soft parenthesis, and 8 would have a hard bracket because the answer is included in our solution set. Set notation, on the other hand, has these ellipses with the variable you're working with, followed by your bar. And let's say, for example, on my bottom number here, I wanted to say that it's between 3 and 8. 3 is my lower number, 8 is my higher number, and that x value must be between 3 and 8. I do need the filled in circle, so I need the bar underneath there, and I close my ellipses. Now I did do an example there fairly quickly, but this is just your variable you're using, and likely it's x most times. This is what we call your inequality. Maybe remembered with you by your alligators. So your basic format of set notation, let's do it for this little purple example up here. I'll move up to the right here. I'd put my ellipses. Let's say my variable is x, and all the solutions would be 5 or greater. So I would say x must be greater than or equal to 5, and close my ellipses. Set notation isn't as prominent, but you will use it in your examples. Let's try one graph example that you might use both of these notations on. We tend to use the notations with our domain and range. So for example, let's just work with range for right now, since that's not the focus of our video. But as you may or may not know, range is all the y values that a graph encompasses. So let's look at how low and how high this graph goes. The lowest value down here that I have graphed, remember this is our x, this is our y, our lowest value is a -5. And our highest value, if we track our way up, these would go on forever, so it doesn't appear that we have a limit there. If we want this solution for just our range, and again, I'm just going to do the range since we're focusing on notation here, my range would start at -5. Remember, I want the lower number first. I want my lower comma upper values. My lowest number is -5. My highest number is infinity. Which type of enclosure do we need? Well, -5, it does hit -5 here. That is part of the solution. So I'm going to put a hard bracket because it includes -5. And infinity is never attainable, so I'd use a soft bracket. This would be our solution for interval notation for the range of this function. If I wanted to turn it to set notation, I would throw in my ellipses with my x variable. Now, for example, actually, I could use my y variable since y is a range value. Let's try that. So I would say my y values go, the bar, where y is greater than or equal to -5. And again, I mentioned x is used primarily, but since I'm using range values, and that would be the y components, I've used that. You can now do this table in your packet and use your set builder notation and your interval notation to do so. Any of these notes I provided or anything else you might find would be wonderful to go in your packet in these areas.